I just want to say we're so passionate about classic movies.
We're going to expand the conversation.
You can see the passion that's in this room.
It's thrilling to the core.
Put a new spin on some vintage films.
It's classic movies and more.
So hearing all of these wonderful names, all right, you can imagine how mesmerized I am. I can't even imagine what your childhood was like and the experiences that you had with some of these incredible celebrities. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Dot unfortunately had to retire from being a makeup artist in the early 50s. She had just come back from touring with Judy Garland on her European tour in '51, and unfortunately Dot came back, I believe it was sometime early summer, and a few weeks later she woke up one day and couldn't see. And that was the beginning of her exacerbation with MS. And she lost the use of her arms and her legs. She eventually got her sight back as well as her arms, her legs to a degree, but she was never able to completely function properly after that. So when I moved in with her in middle of 1959, I was only 3.5, and Dot to me was an older, well she was older, a woman with a walker. However, people were constantly at the house. I did not know who they were. Some of them were family, quite a few, because we have a lot of cousins and aunts and uncles and whatever. But these other people would show up, and they were beautiful people. The women were gorgeous, and the men were gorgeous, and they were funny, and they were personable, and some of them paid a lot of attention to me. Others were, you know, there's a kid in the room, okay. Some of them would sit on the floor and play with me, that kind of thing. And as I got older, I got to know some of them by name. Gail Patrick, for one. I remember her as being this beautifully elegant, gracious lady. Unfortunately, Dot had some kind of because Dot couldn't go shopping to buy me things, she apparently had Gail Patrick buy me things, and basically clothes. So I would see Gail show up with these large boxes, you know, and kids know from a box that has clothes as opposed to a box that has toys or books or candy. I never got candy from Gail Patrick. I got petticoats and frilly underwear and beautiful dresses, you know. But I didn't want that. I wanted to put on my shorts and climb a tree. But Gail Patrick was a wonderful lady, and her husband would come, and he was great too. Joan Blondell was a close friend of Dot's. She was a blast. She was an absolute warm, loving blast to be around. She had 2 pug dogs, and that was her claim to fame as far as I was concerned. I had no idea who these people were. I didn't know they had prior careers. I didn't know what Hollywood was. I just knew that Gail gave me underwear and Joan let me walk the dogs. And then there was this, we had 2 records in the house, 2 albums. There were more than 2, but there were 2 albums with this particular woman on them. Dark-haired lady, short black hair. One of them had a black background, and the woman was in silhouette, and the title was Miss Showbiz. And the other one had a white background, and this woman had a beautiful portrait of her in the middle. And her name, I knew her name was Judy, but I really, you know, I would play the records on the old record player. Anyway, one day Dot is introducing me to one of her guests that had come over. This little lady had come over, not a little lady, not an old lady, but you know, someone I could relate to. But she was kind of disheveled looking and just kind of there. And Dot is going, this is the lady, this is Judy, this is the lady that's on the album cover, the record. And I look at her, and I was extremely skeptical because she didn't look like anything like the woman on the album cover. So I'm looking at her and I'm going, nope, that's not her. And Dot and Judy are cracking up, you know, they're like, it's really me. No, it isn't. You know, so it took a while for me to figure out, you know. But again, she was Judy. I did not know from Judy Garland. It was very important for Dot to have me meet these people as people. They were her friends. They were not commodities. For years, I had no idea of the Hollywood impact of some of these women. I just didn't, I wasn't brought up that way. Yeah, they were Dot. But what was interesting too, after I got older and learned about Dot's history, here she had worked with these people back in the 30s, and in the case of Judy, of course, in the 40s. But they all came back to her. They visited. She had phone call. Barbara Stanwyck, who she called Missy. There were phone calls from Paulette Goddard, Claudette Colbert. And again, I had no idea. I was 5 years old, and Dot had a built-in bar in the house. Not an actual bar table, but a whole room that was a bar. And I discovered when I was sleuthing one day, I was a terrible, terrible sleuth. I would go around and just open drawers and look at things. And I was only 5. And I discovered a big box of pictures. So I dragged the box out, and Dot was in bed at the time. And I dragged the box down the hall. And I was dragging it into her room, and Dot, who are these? What are all these pictures? So I got them on the bed, and one by one, she would go over the pictures with me. And they were Dietrich, and Mae West, and Claudette, and Paulette, and Judy, who I didn't believe, and Joan. That was a real shock, because to see Joan Blondell from 1941 and Joan Blondell from 1961, you know, I was going, that's not Joni. Yes, it is. Okay. You know, and that's how it all started, my Hollywood education.
Wow, that's incredible. Do you have any of those pictures still?
Yes, most of them. Unfortunately, several of them were stolen. When Dot got very excited about trying to get her memoir published, against my advice, even though I was only 16, she let the editor at that time and her agent take the box of pictures to the office to, you know, take a look at them. I mean, I can understand why, but nobody ever thought to take an inventory, to get anything in writing. So we got the pictures back a couple weeks later, I guess, and the first thing I noticed in going through the box was a certain, because I knew those pictures by heart since I was 5 years old, and there are several that are missing, and that's the way it goes. But I know what they are, and luckily, because they're all inscribed, if they ever surface, I can prove, you know, they've never surfaced that I've seen.
So I have to ask, because, you know, Judy Garland, I mean, what can you say, right? Just a fabulous actress, singer. I mean, I can't even have the words to express how talented she was. And I think your aunt and Judy were pretty close.
They were very close. Judy started working with Dot, or Dot started working with Judy at the request of Vincent Minnelli, because he knew how insecure Judy was about her looks. And Dot had already been in the business for over 20 years at that point in time. She had her reputation as one of the top makeup artists. So he wanted her to help Judy out, and that's how their relationship started. It started out as it always was a professional relationship, but they got to be mother and daughter type of relationship as well, because Dot watched out for Judy, and Judy would rely on Dot.
And are there any memories that stand out to you with Judy or your aunt and the time you spent with them?
Oh my! They would laughter. They would have so much fun together when Judy would come to visit. It was just, and I would be so excited if I knew Judy was coming over, or if I was coming home from school and I knew Judy was there, kind of thing. Well, first, the one I already told about not knowing who she was, and then there's the famous rainbow story, my famous rainbow story. I was always kind of a nervous little kid, and just kind of insecure about things. And Dot discovered very early on that if she put one of the 2 albums of Judy's we had, if she put Over the Rainbow on the record player, it would calm me down. And then I could get out of bed and go to school and get, you know, take care of everything. And I would be only, you know, 4 or 5 years old when this was going on, right? So if I was having a bad morning, she'd open the record player up, put the album on, play Over the Rainbow, and I'd be okay. It would just calm me down, totally. I don't know why. And only that song, not any of the other songs, but just that song. So one day when I was getting up in the morning, and I was still in bed and didn't want to get up, whatever, and I was maybe 6 at the most, 5 or 6, I think 6. Dot somehow got it into her head that instead of putting the record on, she was going to call Judy and have her sing Over the Rainbow. Now, I did not know this, and I did not know, she didn't explain anything to me, and I didn't know that Judy could sing. I didn't know she was famous for anything. She was just Judy, you know. So I remember she's dialing. Back then we had rotary dials, so she's dialing the phone, and I hear the click, click, click of the dial go around. And she goes, "Come here." And I get out of bed, and I'm going over into the hallway, because my room opened up onto the main hallway. And she was talking, and I didn't quite get what she was saying, but at one point she held out the receiver, and here. And so I'm picking up the phone, and all of a sudden I hear somebody, somewhere, and I'm looking at the phone like, what the heck is this? And I hang up.
Oh no!
Because I didn't want to hear that.
I hung up on Judy Garland.
I certainly did. I didn't want to hear this. I wanted my record player. It was my security blanket, the record player and the record. Well, Dot is going, "What did you do?"
You're probably the only person who can say
hung up on
that.
Judy, yes. And the phone rings, right?
No.
Right away, the phone rings. Doc's picking up the phone. She listens for a minute. She holds the phone out so I could hear, and it's Judy cackling away. She was hysterical, laughing.
Oh, that's
And I was like mystified. And here are these two broads. What are they doing to me? I didn't understand any of it.
Oh my gosh.
I could understand they were having a good time with whatever had just happened, but I was very clear that I did not want to hear this woman sing to me. I wanted my record player.
Oh my gosh.
So, but they thought it was very funny, apparently.
Yeah, well, I would say.
Yeah. And later on, when I figured out what I had done years later, you're right. Who else would
my
hang up on
gosh.
Judy Garland singing Over the Rainbow? But I did.
Wow. There was another marvelous story you told about something about the drawers or the thing with the thing in the oven.
In the kitchen?
Yeah, I just love that story.
Oh, again, because I had lived with Dot from such an early age, she had a very large kitchen. It was a 1930s house, so it was an old 1930s large type kitchen, and all the original hardware was still there, the tables, whatever. It was a great place. All the kitchen cupboards had handles, the original little amber kind of twisty turned handles, except for one. And for some reason, this crazy 4 and 5 and 6-year-old, I got it into my head, totally out of my imagination, that the reason nobody ever opened this cupboard was because there was a dead baby in there. And nobody could tell me otherwise. And when you have adults confronting children, and children come up with some wacky thing, somebody would be there, and I would, "Do you know why you can't get in here? There's a dead baby in this." "Oh, don't be silly, there's no dead baby in there, just run along, little girl," kind of thing. Okay. So at some point in time, I was probably 6-ish, 7 at the most. I don't even know if I was 7. Judy happened to be there, and we were doing, I think Dot was getting stuff out of cupboards, because she could still maneuver on her walker, so she was getting out, I think, ice cream dishes out of different cupboards and plates and whatever. And I did my usual shtick, and I pointed to the one cupboard over by the side that did not have a handle on it, and I said, "Do you know why that cupboard?" And Judy goes, "No, why?" "Because there's a dead baby in there." And Judy looks at me, and her eyes get really big, those big brown eyes of hers. She goes, "I know. And her name is Murgatroyd." I almost wet myself, because here was a grown-up totally giving credence to what I had always thought was his, I was terrified. It was like, "Oh my God, there's a dead baby in there," And right away they had to calm me down. Dot goes, "Open the damn cupboard," And it was just a push thing. I did not know. They didn't want me to open it. And inside was some beautiful glassware, but that's why they didn't want me in there. But there was no dead baby. They had to calm me down and open it up and show. And I still was rather skeptical. I thought maybe behind the glassware was a dead baby, but so. That was it. But Judy was fun like that. She wasn't your typical grown-up, at least with me. I learned, I'm not going to do it here because it's not ladylike, but she didn't always, but she would sit cross-legged on the floor, and that's how I learned to sit like that, because she taught me how to, And I remember Dot saying, "Get off the floor, leave the kid alone, get off the floor, get in the chair," that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But she was just a lot of fun. She wasn't, like I said, everyone else who came was very much an adult. But they were all older. A lot of them were contemporaries of Dot, who, 50s, 60s. Judy was only in her, I guess, late 30s when I met her or something. And she had young children. She had children my age, so she could relate. So she was just a blast to be around.